Naples 2, Corpus Christi 2. The first draw of the season comes at the hands of Corpus Christi. But Paul, you know what week it is?
March Madness?
Even better, it's US Open Cup week. Are you ready for some cup sets?
Love the US Open Cup. It's an unbelievable tournament. So cool that, me, you, and 9 of our buddies could start a team and work our way to the top and eventually face an MLS side if we keep winning. So it really is one of, all domestic cups like that are really I'm a big fan of.
Yeah, all for the US Open Cup. Seeing these, amateur semi-pro sides take on the pro sides in the first round is a lot of fun. We'll preview that one, but first, let's talk about the 2-2 draw to Corpus Christi. Definitely a draw that felt like a loss in the fact that we took the lead so late and then gave up the lead even later in the match to draw 2-2, but a point's a point, solid point at home. I think Corpus Christi will be a good team this year, at least from what we saw on Saturday night. What was your instant reaction from that match?
Yeah, I agree. The draw that feels like the loss. And if you're new to the show, we'll talk about this every time one of our games ends in a draw. Uh, Before I give my thoughts, I'd be curious in the 85th minute, what was your thoughts if we would have ended that game 1-1? Would it have still felt like a draw that felt like a loss?
I think so, just because I think we started off so well. Like those first 5 minutes, we were so good. And then the first 5 minutes of the second, or the last first 5 minutes of the first half, last 5 minutes of the first half. And then for most of the second half, I felt like we were really in the driver's seat. We were creating a lot of chances. We can kind of look at those chances later, but I thought we were kind of creating the better chances in the second half. They had a really good chance right before we scored, like in the 86th minute, but that was really all from them in the second half. So I think we were on the day, the better side. So I would have still said I think it was a draw that felt like a loss. I mean, obviously I would have taken the point because points are points. We get points on the board, we move on. But I think it was there for the taking and there for us to win. And unfortunately, we couldn't hold on. What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm glad you felt the same way because the way the game ended, it felt even more like a loss. But even if Batchenstein doesn't score that goal, I'm still walking away from that game feeling like it's a loss. I thought we were the better side for for a majority of the time. There are some times we did look poor, but I thought we were the better team. To me, it was clear we had the more talent, and we didn't capitalize on so many opportunities. That 2-1 goal, Batchenstein's goal was so brilliantly developed and with such a high level of soccer. We talked about it last week with the difficulty of the goal. I would say that was probably an easier goal than he scored last week, but the build up to get there was not easy. The team celebrates, and this is always the toughest thing. When you score late, what you think is a winner. In the 80, especially that late, 88th minute, 89th minute, you really do. You are really sitting there thinking we won this game. Um, and it was just so poor. It was like that was a goal that put us up two, and kind of from the rip, that whole time building up to their equalizer, you kind of felt like they were playing like they had a 2 or 3 goal lead, and were just trying to run the clock out. I think late, time wasting is a skill that you have to develop. And not sure how much you develop that growing up in youth soccer, but late in the game, you've got the free run down. I forget what player had it on the right side, and probably could have taken the keeper on one. Looked like there could have been a 2-on-1 developing. The stream made it tough to see, and you decide to dribble it to the corner. Don't hate that move in general, but I think at home you go for the dagger. Worst case, it ends up in a goal kick or the goalie has the ball and you can come back and reset. Going to the corner and then not winning a corner or a throw kind of was the beginning of the end for our chances of winning. So would have liked to see a little more effort out of the guys in the final in that stoppage time, but I think this is a game. Now that we've had a few days to cool off, uh, we'll move forward. We'll take the 1 point and move on to the U.S. Open Cup game.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a good learning experience for the team. I think it kind of showed this game, especially with the last 6 minutes of stoppage time. Just seeing out games is going to be pivotal in this league. No lead is ever really safe, so I think that's going to be the biggest thing, and I'm sure that's just been hounded this week in training. Is how do we see out these games? How do we not give the ball away? I went back and watching the highlights live, I had completely forgotten their goal came off of a throw-in, and it was just a bad giveaway, ball out of bounds. They threw the ball in, and a couple passes later, boom, it's in the back of the net. And it was like, how the heck did that just happen? Like, we thought we were going home with all 3 points. So definitely, I think a big learning opportunity. Overall, though, I do like your assessment. I think we did play really well. I think other than 35 minutes of the first half, that middle 35 minutes was not the best. So definitely learning opportunities there. I do want to go back because that first goal too, a minute and a half in, was a really well worked goal too, and I think that was another classic, FC Naples from last year style goal where we've got Farine who a minute and a half in just takes on his man, beats him, gets around him, pings a great ball into the box, just kind of knocked around, and then here comes Mark Torres ready to bury it. The classic goal, and then the Backstein goal too was another classic goal where it's well worked down the wing. I think it came from Garcia, the pass back, but Torres had kind of won it there and played it out wide to Garcia, who takes on his man, cuts it back to him, and he's just there for the tap in. Two really well worked, and I know the team's only been around for a year, but dare I say classic FC Naples goals.
Yeah, that first goal, like you mentioned, also historic. It was the fastest goal scored in club history. So that was pretty cool. And I think that middle 35 that you're love that we're calling it that in that first half, I think that stemmed from the feeling of the talent disparity where you get that opening goal, kind of feel like we're better than these guys. And then you just
Mm-hmm.
find yourself on the back foot. You're not able to kind of swing the momentum. They score the equalizer, and it kind of just gets out of hand. And next thing you know, um, you're going into halftime 1-1, a little momentum late, feeling good about the second half though. And I know it was a late go ahead goal, in the 88th minute, but really around minute 70, it felt like there was one or two more goals in the game. Um, it did not feel like that game was going to draw. You didn't know which side it was going to get the
No.
bounce, but at no point really in the second half did I feel like that game was going to be a draw. And I think that's what makes it feel more like a loss is you kind of knew that there was that third goal and you score that late. You have that celebration. And, a lot of credit to Corpus Christi for not giving up. I felt like we dominated in the second half and they really could have quit. And they didn't. And credit where credit is due. They scored a good goal and, both teams walk away with a point.
Yeah, I think credit too to Corpus Christi and their coaching staff. I felt like you could definitely see the first 5 minutes and throughout the game there was, I think, a talent disparity there. They had a lot of guys making their professional soccer debuts, not a lot of experience or not a lot of, USL League One experience on that side, but they came with a game plan and they executed it really well. I think they knew our center backs and our wingers were going to be really good and the weak spot was going to be outside of the box. So they pressured us with shots from outside the box all day long because they knew they wouldn't be able to break into that 18 just because we were bigger, faster, stronger, whatever you want to use with those chances. So, and that's how both of their goals came, was just moving the ball around the outside of the box. We were kind of sitting back defending and we gave them a little too much time and they were able to make us pay. Both goals I thought were the first goal I think was a decent enough goal from them where it is a little well worked, moving the ball around. I couldn't tell if it took a nick or not, but I think at the end of the day, when Delgado and the midfield sees it, it's going to be one that they all want back.
Yeah,
Unfortunate.
that brings me to two overreactions I want to make and get your opinions on both questions. One, do you think that was the worst game that Delgado's played for FC Naples? And
I
two, was that performance by the back line, the midfield, and the goalkeeper, should that be cause of concern? I know we're only 2 games in, and I preface this with this is an overreaction, but your thoughts on those two statements?
I don't think it's the worst game from Delgado because he did have a couple of pretty nice saves. First half, I know he had a couple of point blank headers that he had to stop and just quick reactions tip him over the bar. And then second half, he had to get one down low to one at the back post, another shot from outside the box that he was able to tip around the post. So I don't think it's the worst game. And I can't tell with this midfield. I know last year we were really weak in the central midfield, it seems, and that, especially the central attacking midfield. I thought defensively we were really strong. So it's one of those where I feel like this year we're almost better at attacking through the central midfield, but not as good defensively. I think, Torres was excellent in that. But he's just one guy sitting in front of the two center backs. So he kind of had his work cut out for him. I think O'Connor and Messias also played decent attacking. But again, it was just leaving them so much space outside the box. But at the same time, in this league, I don't know how many solid strikes from outside the box we'll see that will lead to goals. It doesn't seem like a lot of worldies getting scored, and it's one of those like, okay, if you're going to beat us with a top corner shot from outside the box, go for it, be our guest. So that's my reaction to your overreaction. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, the goalkeeping play on both goals has never made sense to me. I get that you have to be worried about the deflection, but I think, at some point you just gotta gamble and make the dive. And if it hits off a leg and redirects the other way, you know, just the idea of you don't want to be beat on the initial shot from a distance like that. Like to me, there's not really a reason unless it's deflected. And there can be some caveats with that. To me, I think both of those should have been saved. I don't think there could have. And I bet you if we had Delgado on the show, he would agree that he should have saved both, not that he could have saved both. Again, not ready to wave the white flag on anybody on this team. It was just so funny that I was listening back to an episode last week that we did. And I was, praising Delgado, how great it was to have him back there. And now this week I've flipped and been like, what a terrible game by Delgado. So I imagine you'll see, you know, some flip flopping throughout the year if you listen closely. And again, this is an initial reaction. I think you ask me again in a week, I'll be back and comfortable after he puts up a clean sheet on Wednesday. Um, but yeah, that back line, that midfield, I totally agree. The midfield feels reversed from last year, where attacking, we're so much better moving the ball to the midfield than we were, especially at this point last year. And I think the back line just needs time. I think that there was a couple shaky games, like 3 and 4 last year, where the back line looked a little shaky. We weren't sure about them, and as the season progressed, they shored up. And um, so yeah, I think just a quick clickbait overreaction of Paul's thoughts at this time.
Yeah, I think back line, and you're right, the midfield just kind of need time to figure it out. And we're 2 games in now. Definitely overreactions on our part, but I think given the time, though, it seems like we do have a lot of talent there still, that was kind of our biggest concern coming into this season was, okay, we've kind of lost that whole spine of the team, that whole central midfield, central defenders, and our center forward. What are we going to look like? And we've proven, I think, we've got a true new number 9 in Backshine. That's just a goal. He can just come in and score goals when you need him to. Just get the ball to his feet and he'll finish it. And we've been able to score goals without Hendrick. We've scored 3 goals now in 2 games. It's a pretty solid start. Sorry, 4 goals in 2 games. So I don't think we could ask for ask for much more given we lost our top two goal scorers from last season. So definitely good work there.
Yeah, the answer of where our goals going to come from has been answered. We know where our goals are going to come from, and there's definitely a couple guys, like Gray. I still believe that he is going to be an impact player down the stretch, and if we make a deep run in the postseason, I think he's going to need to be a key reason of that. Saw some comments that Farine shouldn't have been taken off. I didn't hate any of Matt Poland's moves. I don't know what your thoughts are. I didn't hate any of the moves that he made.
Yeah, it was. I think it's still one of those two where it's so early. We don't know what changes to really expect, and I don't think he does either. I thought Farine was really good down the wing and kind of had that man in his pocket all game. Like he could just take him on 1v1 and beat him, and we could know we're gonna get a cross in the box. Same with Garcia. So I think he knew he wanted to take one of those guys off and just went with Farine because Garcia just seemed to have an extra step. Yeah, I didn't hate any of the changes either. But I do see why, Farine was the best guy. And I'm curious to see now as we head into this Open Cup what the squad rotation kind of looks like against a semi-pro team coming in.
Yeah. Yeah, this is always like the interesting one when you got a game like this. Is the strategy going to be to completely rest your guys with the possibility of needing them, you'll play them? Or is the plan going into the game, hey, you guys are going to come in the 60 to 70th minute, regardless of score, just to keep the legs moving. We don't want to tire you out, but we want you to get some reps. Which hopefully at that point the game's 3-0, and now this semi-pro team has to face our best lineup. Or do we do something where it's switched and we have half the guys play, the first half, the other half play the second half? Do you save any subs in the back pocket for the 80th plus in the oh crap scenario we're tied or down and need a equalizer or a winner? And I thought Matt Poland did a really nice job last year in all the cup games of rotation. So I'm confident that whatever plan he puts forward is going to be good. And until he proves us otherwise, I'll keep my faith in him as the coach.
Yeah, agreed there. Also got to give a shout out to Hudson Gay, who came on for Farine, local guy who did have an impact. He's, I think, the guy that made the run down into the corner on that play, but a local guy. He's on a 25-day contract, I think it is. So it is really cool to see, local guys come in and play professional soccer for this team. I think that's really, really cool to see, and I hope he gets an opportunity again to play in the Open Cup on Wednesday night.
Yeah, the only thing I want to see Wednesday night is I want to see if Backstein can give, which is totally not how you say his name, and the broadcasters and the play-by, like in arena and stadium announcers both said it differently as well. So there's at least 3 iterations of his name that you may hear. I don't know which one's right, but I know mine is wrong. So my goal for next week will be to have his name properly pronounced. I'm not sure how I'll find out the official verbiage, but I want to see if he can put in a full shift. And that's got to be the reason he hasn't started either of the first 2 games, is because his fitness is not at a point where he can give us 90 minutes. He's the type of guy you absolutely want full steam ahead 70 to 90th minute. And until he can do that, and I don't know what that looks like, so that's got to be the only thing I can think of the reason he's not in the starting 11.
Yeah.
So I would love to see him try to get a full 90 in, and then you go back on Saturday or Sunday, whenever the next match is, back to his super sub role where he comes in and will inevitably score our second goal.
Yeah, it seems like and he has been just so deadly, especially when we see, back line start to get tired.
Hmm.
He when he comes in with that fresh pace and just that fresh burst of energy, it changes the game, and we've seen that the past 2 weeks. So I'm curious to see, will we? He's proven like he can play that true number 9 role. So will we give him the chance in the league? Or and I do that is something that I had written down for this Open Cup game. One of the things I really want to see is him get the start and play that the full 90 minutes, like you said, and or at least 70, and then we bring someone else on and give them the chance to be the super sub. And I think that is kind of how this team seems to want to play, given how we scored those 2 goals, both of just beating guys down the wing, playing balls into the box, and finding goals from it. That kind of seems to be our team's DNA. So will we see that again on Wednesday night? And I kind of hope so. Yeah. So I think Backstein is one player to watch. The other player that I really want to see get a chance is Juan Osorio. He, I think, appeared in the game last week. He's a midfielder. Came on against Fort Wayne. I think he's going to be really good, but just kind of needs time to get settled into the league. So I would love to see him get a start there in the midfield, and maybe give O'Connor and Messias a break heading into Richmond on Saturday, because it's going to be playing Wednesday night and then heading up to Richmond for a 6 p.m. kickoff on Saturday night. Gonna come fast.
Yeah, I think O'Connor's the obvious initial choice to take out of the starting 11. And no knock on him. I think he's a proven guy. You know what you have in him. And he's provided sparks off the bench last year. So he seems like the obvious choice of who's gonna miss this game. Uh, I think he's the obvious choice, just because I want him fresh for Saturday. I know what he's going to provide to the team. There's absolutely no reason that we should need him, but if we do, that 65th to 75
Yeah.
minute range could be a time where you can come in and provide a much needed spark if we're in that position.
And I believe he did do that in the first round Open Cup game last year against Sarasota. He came off the bench, and I think he scored the winner or assisted the
Hmm.
winner late in the game. Yeah, he did score 90+1.
Yep.
I thought he did. Yeah, he came off the bench to score that and clinch us that victory. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting. This Red Force team, kind of trying to scout the competition. They play in the Premier Football League, which seems to be a Florida, Miami-based league. They qualified through Open Cup qualifying, so I had to kind of go through local qualifiers. It seems like their season's done in the Premier Football League, and this is kind of the end of it. So they might be it looks like they're at the tail end of their season. We're just at the start of ours. What do you think it's going to take from them to have a cup set against FC Naples on Wednesday?
Uh, a prayer. Not really sure. It's one of those teams looking with the little information we have, that the only way we don't come out victorious in this game is if we aren't ready, which is part of the reason I like playing some of the guys who aren't in the 11 right now, because you just got to think those guys are going to be hungry and playing at their best, because they're trying to earn, as you like to say, earn the shirt. Uh, my fear when you see matchups like this, teams completely take their foot off the gas, and that's when Grimsby Town can beat Man United. Um, so yeah, I don't foresee us needing a super sub. Don't foresee this one being particularly stressful. However, I thought the same last year when we played Sarasota, and it was a stoppage time winner. I believe that was a 2-1 finish. So you never really know. Like you said, these guys are hungry. They want to put on some film to maybe get signed by USL League One team. So yeah, I don't have high hopes for them.
Yeah, I think it's one of those. You're right. We're gonna have to come in fully focused and not not think that, okay, we're better than these guys. It's going to be we're just out for, a kickabout. We're going to have to kind of switch on and prove. I think it's a good opportunity, right, for those guys that aren't necessarily in the starting 11 to earn the shirt, like I like to say, and become that 12th, 13th, 14th guy off the bench. Or even maybe break into the starting 11 if they can prove themselves. Like if Backstein can go out there and score a hat trick, I think, he's got to start on Saturday. So yeah, I think it is a great opportunity for these guys. I think kind of staying switched on. We saw where we were the better team for the first 5 minutes, and yeah, we just kind of seemed to take our foot off the gas in the first half against Corpus Christi. So avoiding that and just staying focused for the full 90 and just trying to take it to these guys and prove, okay, yeah, it's great that you qualified for this tournament, but you're playing against a professional side now, and we're going to kind of put you back in your place, and send them home, having a good beatdown and proving to us, okay, we can score goals. We don't want to waste all of our goals for the season on this game, but, scoring as many goals as we can and just, kind of making a statement. I think that's going to be key, and it'll be a lot of fun too to be there in person. Having fully recovered from my illness, which is causing this podcast to be delayed, which I apologize if you're looking for us on Monday or Tuesday. We're getting it to you on Wednesday. But it's a match day preview and a match recap all in one. And then we'll have to come back hopefully after a win and do the same thing with a recap and a preview for Richmond.
Yeah, this will be your first cup game, or did you go to that Sarasota game last year?
I went to the game where we played Little Rock at home in the cup at home because I missed the Rowdies game, which I'm still upset about because I was on a work trip.
That's
So I can
right.
watch
Okay.
it. Yes, I watched the penalties
So
in the
we won
hotel
two
lobby.
US Open Cup games last year. I
We
totally
did.
forgot about that Little Rock game. Nice. So where I was going with that is it is nice that we are going to get a lower side team at home. Opportunity for the team to bounce back. I think that's another factor, right? You just had a heartbreaking draw. Let's go out. Let's show the home side, hometown fans that we're back right. Get a big victory. We didn't put up a lot of goals very often last year, so it would be really cool to go out and set a club record for goals in a game, which I believe is three.
I think we scored 4 against AV Alta at one
Alto.
point last season.
Yep. Um, yeah. So
Yeah, we
let's
beat
get
AV
five.
4-0. Yeah, let's go
Let's get
get
five.
5-0. Um, do you want to see Delgado in goal as the club captain, or do you let one of the young guys, Fitzgerald or Grant, get some minutes?
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if he's not net, who would be the captain. Um, I don't know. I was actually thinking about asking you the same question. Um, maybe this is a sit 'em, give him the night off. Um, I think it's okay to mess with a striker or a midfielder, like a position player. You can mess with their psyche a little bit by saying, "Hey, you're not going to play," and then, "Oh crap, we need you." I don't think you can do that with a goalie. So I think it's one of those things. If you don't start him, a you can't waste a sub on a goalie, and two, those guys are just different. Goalies in all sports are just a little bit different. Same with catchers in baseball. They have their routines. So I think Poland's got the decision. Are we gonna put him out there for 90 minutes um or are we going to let one of these young guys get a chance? This is the game to let a young guy get a chance. So I think that's a discussion between Poland and Delgado. Where is Delgado mentally? The guy's is a pro. So I think if he's like, "Hey, I'm good. I'm ready for Saturday. I don't need to play today," then you go with one of the young guys.
Yeah, curious to see what the lineup will look like. Looking forward to it as always. We love the Open Cup on this show. As we were recording, Portland Hearts of Pine got up cup set by Vermont Green FC, who plays in the Bernie Bow, as they like to call it, not the Bernabeu. That's in Madrid. They play in the Bernie Bow after Bernie Sanders. Appreciate some play on words there. Yeah, so love us some cup sets. Love like some March Madness upsets. It's so fun that these tournaments are starting the same time. What would you classify then as a successful U.S. Open Cup run, Paul?
I think the obvious answer is not losing to a lower tiered team. Not sure at what point we would play a championship side or another USL League One side, but I certainly do think that a successful run would be not losing to anybody below us and not losing to anybody at our level. If we get bounced by the Rowdies again, so be it. We proved last year we could be the championship side. So if that matchup does come up, I still will be thinking we could win. But that's, to me, what would be a good run.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think if we could, last year we won 2 games in the Open Cup before that Rowdies match. If we could win 3 games in the Open Cup, make it to the 4th round, I think that would be awesome. I think that's kind of got to be the goal. And if we can, take on a championship side or even an MLS side and go be competitive with them, I think that would be awesome. Something we would all love to see, and I think something the fans would certainly get behind the team for.
Mm-hmm.
Paul, anything else you want to add before we go?
Well, we got to do our predictions. It's a match day preview.
We do. It's a match day preview. What's your prediction against Red Force?
5-0.
5-0. Coming out strong.
Strong. Bachenstein hat trick, as you said.
Love it. I'll go 2-1. I think it's going to be competitive. I think... No, and I don't want to go 3-1 again because I went 3-1 last week and was wrong. I'm going to stick 2-1. I think we're going to get up two goals easy. We'll sit back for a little bit. They'll get a late goal. Nothing will come from it, and we'll advance 2-1. Final score. But I really like your 5-0, and I hope that's the case.
I'm due for a win. I'm due for a correct score prediction.
It is a lot easier to predict the correct score in soccer because there's only so many options compared to, March Madness is on compared to that where it could be in the 60s, could be in the 80s. You never know.
Yeah, I think if you went 2-2, probably not 2-2, but if you went 1-1 every game of the FC Naples game, you would probably hit 4 or 5 times. I imagine there would be 4 or 5 1-1 games.
Yeah. Well, thank you all so much for listening. We'll be back later this week. Hopefully, if both of us stay healthy. If not, we might have to have a Michael Jordan flu game style recording. I was unable to do that earlier this week, being out sick, but hoping to be back later this week to preview the Richmond game. Looking forward to seeing you all there Wednesday night as we take on Red Force in the U.S. Open Cup, one of the longest open tournaments in the U.S. And in the world, actually. I think it's over 100 years old, so it should be a lot of fun. Historic night at the Paradise Coast Sports Complex. Until then, we will see you all soon. Come on, Naples. It's Ian in post. Forgot to mention, tomorrow night's game is streaming on YouTube, so you can find it on YouTube. I'm sure the club will share links, so follow them on social medias. Also, the weather should be beautiful. So if you're not joining in person, which I would highly recommend just based on the weather tomorrow night, going to be in the 50s and 60s, so bring a sweatshirt. You can watch the game on YouTube. Just wanted to make sure we mentioned that before we go. Thanks so much for listening, and up the Naples.